It's only Monday and I am already absolutely buzzing for round 2 of the Six Nations. Here's a bit of a long-range preview of it. And I've had a song going around in my head all day today so far. And well, last week the song I had in my head is It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, because I was excited about the Six Nations, which is, forget about Christmas, the most wonderful time of the year. And this morning I've woken up with a song from Flight of the Conchords in my head, which if you haven't watched ever, you really should. The song is Business Time, because it's business time. Round 2 of the Six Nations is box office. We've got Wales going to Italy. You've got Ireland travelling to Murrayfield to play Scotland, and England against France at Twickenham. Round 1's games, they were good, but it was always going to be 3 home wins, really. And this is a different kettle of fish altogether. You have got 3 box office matchups, and let's have a look at some of the news that's breaking, some of the potential team news ramifications as well. Please leave your comments down below and give the video a thumbs up and hit subscribe on the channel. I'm really grateful for all of the new subscribers, presumably because there's a lot of people searching for stuff during the Six Nations. And yes, I'm Tim and this is Egg Chasers, and this is where I talk about rugby. And as you'll see, if you've been getting involved in the comments, I'm down there with you. So please do get stuck in. So for England, starting with the game at Twickenham, Saturday evening's match. And Caden Murley looks like he could be out of England's squad and for reckoning for selection for France. England last week announced their team on a Tuesday, so I'm ready for the team to be announced tomorrow. Caden Murley could be out due to a foot injury. Now, some people could argue that's actually saved Steve Borthwick's bacon, because it was not a good debut for Caden Murley, and it would have really rocked his confidence, and it would have been quite cruel on Caden Murley to think he's good enough to start in Dublin but then not pick him at Twickenham. But now maybe Steve Borthwick doesn't have to do that tough thing. He had a tough debut. He did some good things, and for what it's worth, if Caden Murley is fit, I think I would have selected him again, because he is a good player and he deserves another go. And he did some nice things. He made some howlers, but he will learn from that and come back. I've no doubt better. He has got a little bit of X factor, a bit like Faye Waboso, but it looks like he might not get the chance. So I'll come on to a conversation about what that means for England's selection. The obvious thoughts are Tom Roebuck, Ollie Slightholme, Elliot Daly. Who gets the nod there and why? As for France, the news coming out of there over the weekend following their game on Friday night, they announced their squad for this England Test week, and the headlines for France: Damien Penaud is available, Thibaut Flamand is not. And also, I mean, with Romain Ntamack, as I record this, don't know what his status is going to be. I'm assuming he's not going to be available. He's in the squad, but I'm assuming a suspension is coming Romain Ntamack's way for the red card. We'll wait and see on that. So assuming he cannot play 10, who does play 10? Because there is no Romain Bourros, there is no Leo Barret, and Fabien Galtier does not seem to like picking Matthew Jalibert as his number 110. In November, Thomas Ramos stepped up and was the fly half, but without the fullback options they had in November, what does Galtier do? What would you do? I guess the options are Ramos to 10 and Louis Bielbiere at 15. There is Thibergin in the squad as well, a fullback from Aveyron Bayonnais, and he's very good, but would be a completely new cap. And away at Twickenham, does Galtier want to do that? Well, actually, he's shown that he doesn't mind picking youngsters and untested players, so maybe. But Ramos at 10 with, let's say, Louis Bielbiere at 15, or Jalibert at 10 and keep Ramos at 15. There is also the outside chance you go Le Garrec 9, Dupont 10, and Ramos at 15. We will wait and see what happens. But another one that is back, Tavita Tatafu. I do think tight head prop is a bit of an issue long-term for France. Antonio's not going to be around for very long, and their backup, I'm just not convinced by Georges-Henri Collomb. I think Tatafu is the boy. Another player for Bayonne, 150 kilos, and he can jackal, he can carry, and he can scrummage. So I think he will get back into the squad. As for the teams, if I were guessing what England were going to do, I think, and look, I'll tell you what, I'll tell you why I think this will be England's selection. We'll wait and see tomorrow. I think one of the back row will be sacrificed and go onto the bench. I've got Ben Curry here, and I've got Ollie Chessum into the back row. That could be Chandler Cunningham South. and I've also got Tom Roebuck coming into the starting lineup. And there's a very specific reason for that, which I'll come to in a minute. So that's what I think it will be much the same, except for an enforced change if Murley's out, and a tactical change in the back row to just change the dynamic. And that is because, and I expect France to do this. We'll wait and see. I think Gabin Villiers, as good as Atisogbe is, I think Villiers might come back in. BLBRA might go to 15, and Ramos at 10. They may well go with a 5-3 split on the bench, just so they've got the cover so they can bring a 10 on, and maybe Jalabert on the bench, drop one of the forwards, Guillard, let's say, and then, or actually it would be more likely Oredu, and then you can have Jalabert coming in and Ramos could drop back to 15 and all the rest of it. So I think that's probably what they'll do. Actually, now I think about it, I'm more confident it'll be a 5-3 split for France. But before I get into the reasons why I would make the changes I would for England, this is if those are the teams, big if, we'll wait and see. If those are the teams, this would be a combined 23-man squad I would pick. I would only have Maro Itoje over Alexander Roumas, who I didn't think was very good on Friday. Not a second row by trade, and I think it showed. Tom Curry in the back row for Paul Boudehon, who is still very, very good. And Ollie Lawrence in for Pierre-Louis Barassi. And then a few Englishmen on the bench instead of some of those young Frenchmen. So here's the point. And this is why a little bit I was frustrated by people, loads of England fans, expecting England to win in Dublin. England were going to the backyard of the Six Nations champions, stacked full of world-class players. England, fundamentally, do not have as good a players as the top teams. And this demonstrates it. If you said to Fabien Galtier, you can pick any Englishman you want for your team, who do you want? He only picks a couple, a few, a handful. And the majority of his team would be the guys that he's already got, which tells you how this is going to go. France should be overwhelming favourites. France should win. I think England can win, but they don't have the players to just go out there and meet them head-to-head and win. England have to have a very good day. France have to be off their game, and England have to come tactically and do something clever. And I think, as much as England fans might sigh or moan, I think England are going to do what they did against South Africa at the Rugby World Cup last November, and what they've done consistently well against better teams, and they're going to go aerial. The aerial bombardment is something that France do not handle very well. They are not good aerially. It's just a tradition culturally in France. They do not have players, and that's why they'll be gutted that Romain Bourros and Leo Barret are out, because they're two fullbacks that are quite good at that. And I think England can get an edge on them here. If you have Tom Roebuck, big guy in the back three, Tommy Freeman, 6'2", 6'3", and you've got Freddie Stewart, 6'5", put up the bombs. And then also with the line out, I'm not convinced by Alexander Roumas for France. So I think England can go after France's line out a little bit. They didn't compete against Ireland defensively. That's the one thing that really disappointed me. Ireland's line out was struggling coming into the game on Saturday, and England didn't compete in defence, which I thought was a massive mistake. So that's why I think Ollie Chessum will come back in, and I think England will go after France's line out. And those two things together, going after the line out, chucking up loads of bombs, and I think England could rattle France. And that's possibly their only route to victory in my mind. Either that or just going full bonkers rugby and trying to play some sevens. But I think they're just as likely to lose by 50 points as they are to win by a point doing that. So anyway, that's England v France. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Moving over to Ireland, going to Scotland. This game is going to be ace. Sunday's fixture. Like the Saturday, we're going to be full of rugby by Saturday evening, but we've got a nice big Sunday roast of a match, Sunday afternoon in Edinburgh, and it's Scotland against Ireland. Ireland have got a couple of injury concerns. Finlay Bealham and Mac Hansen are being monitored at the moment. Both of them took a knock. They could be in, they could be out. We're not going to know. Ireland will name their team on Friday afternoon, so they've got a little bit of time yet. But better news is that it looks like Tadhg Furlong and Joe McCarthy are both going to be available, which makes, that's a massive bit of positive for Ireland if they come through. And if they come through, Scotland, there's no news coming out of the camp, so I say no news is good news. Big week for both of these teams. If Scotland have everyone available, I expect them probably to pick this team. I think they might make a couple of changes Jack Dempsey coming into the back row. I think he proved his fitness after the game. Jamie Ritchie, keep him in the matchday squad. Obviously, he's great on the bench. And Tom Jordan looked really good at 12, didn't he? And I wonder whether they switch him and Stafford McDowell around, potentially. That might be the way I would go if I were in Gregor Townsend's shoes. Because, yeah, the midfield for Scotland have got a big job up against Bundyaki and Gary Ringrose. As for Ireland, well, assuming that Beelum is available, he's on the bench and Furlong comes into the starting lineup. It could be the other way around, just like Simon Easterby did with Dan Sheehan, who I expect to start. I have completely forgotten to put in Joe McCarthy. If fit, Joe McCarthy starts, Tadhg Beirne goes to 6, Ryan Baird on the bench, possibly instead of Ian Henderson? Maybe? Or maybe Henderson's out and Ryan's on the bench, or McCarthy's on the bench. That'll be the way. Anyway, McCarthy's going to be in the matchday squad, and I've missed him out of this. As for the back line, personally, I would keep it the same. I thought Jack Crowley was excellent. I thought Sam Prendergast did some lovely things. But I would rather have Jack Crowley finishing the game. I'd rather have him on the pitch at the end of a match if it's a tight one. As for a combined team, and this gives you a bit of an indication about where I think this one's going to go. And again, I'm only recording this on Monday. It might change when we get the teams later in the week. I think Scotland are really competitive, and in a lot of positions, they're not far behind. Rory Darge is not far behind Josh van der Fleer. Jack Dempsey's not far behind Caelan Doris. Hugh Jones is right there with Gary Ringrose. I've sort of accommodated Duhan van der Merwe on the other wing because he's just got so much upside. Grant Gilchrist isn't far behind James Ryan, but Ireland just have a little bit more class, and I think that will tell. I think Scotland are going to have to play up. Ireland are going to have a dip, but I think the confidence Ireland will take from their performance against England at the weekend, where when it clicked, their attacking play was fizzing again, and it just, like Jameson Gibson Park is back to his best, and Dan Sheehan's back in that team, and he just adds something very special. So I'm thinking this is going to be an Ireland victory, not by a lot, but by a score. That's the long range forecast at this point. And then the other game, I cannot wait for this one. It's going to be so much fun on Saturday afternoon. Could it be a wooden spoon decider? I mean, that feels harsh on Italy. Wales have got some injury concerns. Aaron Wainwright could be out. Owen Watkin could be out. Taulupe Faletau, who ruled himself out of last week's game, could be out. No word on exactly what's happened there. Tame Plumtree has been called up to the squad, which is not a good sign for Faletau and Wainwright. Maybe it's a better sign for Owen Watkin that no one else has been called up in his place. No Max Llewellyn has been called up to the Welsh squad. So again, just going through the same process, I'm going to assume everyone's fit and available, and just for argument's sake, that both head coaches pick the same team. If you were picking a combined team between Wales and Italy, what would it look like? And the sad reality for Wales is I think it looks like that. I've got the props the wrong way around. I've got Marco Riccioni in twice. Deary me. It's one of those days. It's a Monday. It's been a long weekend. That should be, what's his name? Ferrari there at prop for Italy. But yeah, look, the front five dominated by Italy. That's where Wales have got to. Now, Henry Thomas was actually quite good against France at the weekend. I thought Wales, actually, their scrum held up pretty well against France. But Italy, I've just got a little bit more everywhere. And Josh Adams is very good. I just kind of go with Monty Ioane at the minute. The midfield, that's where Wales are. That's where Wales are. I would pick more Italians than Welshmen by a chunk. What's that? 5, 10 Italians in a starting 15. I mean, that would have been unthinkable even just a few years ago. But it speaks to where they're at. So there you go. I think it's going to be an Italian win. And if Italy win, Wales drop to 12th in the world rankings, their lowest ever, and they would go below Georgia. And of course, Georgia will be then looking at World Rugby going, hello. And fair play to Sam Warburton, because he has said, and I totally agree with him, that there should be a relegation match in the Six Nations. There should be access for teams like Georgia, like Portugal, like Spain, via a relegation match. There absolutely should be that in the Six Nations. And I would say that if England were bottom and really bad, And who knows, it could get worse for England and we could end up there. But it's looking like it could well be Wales in that position. But a massive game ahead, huge 80 minutes in Rome. And they will have been thinking about this game ever since that last game against November, because no one was expecting them to win in France. But when they lost that final game in the November tests, everyone was talking about this weekend against Italy, and this game was going to be make or break. Are Wales going to turn things around, get a win on the board, or is it going to be another bleak year ahead for Warren Gatland's men? Huge games everywhere you look, massive matchups. And like I say, more videos coming on the channel as the teams are announced, as we get more injury news, and as things happen and as the excitement builds, which I'll be trying to do here on the channel. Hit subscribe, give the video a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next one.